Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's on the Tube, or welcome back if this is your third Under the Banner of Heaven episode review. Technically, it's still weird to say since last week we reviewed 2 episodes, so a little bit murky, a little bit weird on that. This week, here we are. I apologize for the delay. I watched Doctor Strange in the Multiverse Madness. I had a change of work schedule, so a lot is delayed this episode review. I apologize. With Walker going on break this week for until the rest of the month, we're just gonna switch over back to Fridays. So stay tuned for that. So we'll be back our normally scheduled time. So don't worry about that. Anyway, for this week on Under the Banner of Heaven, the mystery deepens as we start to see more of the present day LaFreys pop into the main story. And for me, I'm still very much I'm still set on what I think happened, but obviously with this being a limited series, murder mystery story, like as you get closer to the middle, you're just getting more questions than answers. And I think so far we're at a really good pace, where it's not too bloaty, I see, because the thing with most book adaptations is that when it comes to, I think this is the problem when you get to like adapting to movies or TV shows, is that the movies you tend to like really cut out a lot of like the extra stuff, which for the reader would be necessary to understand all the characters and where they stand in relationships and identities and personalities and what their beliefs are. And they try to like just simplify it to just the main characters just to get through the movie. And with a TV show, you often can run into the problem of like overstretching the story in order to fit whatever prerequisite that the network, or in this case the streamer, would want you to have. For example, Netflix with 13 Reasons Why, ironically 13 Reasons Why equals 13 episodes, which I won't get into that today, maybe some point in the future. But here for so far, again, not having read the book, not having done much research on the actual murder investigation that happened back in the olden days. So far, we're at a good pace. I have no complaints about it so far. Again, they got a little bit more Andrew in here, because my one little personal critique was we didn't get much Andrew in the first 2 episodes. I think we're starting to see more of that. There was a little bit less flashbacks, in my opinion, and more focus on the main storyline. And I start to see more of Jeb as a character, as well as what everyone's really fighting for right now, as this conspiracy theory deepens. And again, right now it is a conspiracy theory, since right now we don't really have any facts. We're just getting other sides of the story. So until we reach the end, which it will become factual, that's when we find out. So let's go for the butcher recap and talk about this week's episode of Under the Banner of Heaven. So we begin where the last episode left off. It's been a bit since Jeb's partner and / the chief has radio in, so they're heading up into the woods to figure out what has happened. They find his car, pretty abandoned, cold, so it's been a while. So they start retracing his steps. Jeb sees the same little girl that the chief saw before earlier in the last episode. Well, episode 2, I mean, not, you know what I mean. So Jeb finds this container filled with blackberries that the little girl dropped. It was, I'm assuming, food for whoever's living in the cabin that the chief was finding and almost shot at, well, that we presume, in the last episode. They eventually do reach the cabin. They hear this like very weird like ringing noise from the cabin. But as soon as they start to approach the cabin, they find a dog that's chained up, but that's ready to attack, as it's very aggressive. While Jeb is trying to get closer to the cabin to figure out what really is the best attack strategy here, he finds the chief hiding behind a shed. So he's alright being a shot, but he did twist his ankle a little bit, so he's not 100%. Not 100% well, but he's still able to keep going and keep fighting on. So sadly, backup won't be arriving for at least another 40 minutes. So it's going to take quite a bit of time before they can call in for reinforcements. So they got to sit tight for a while. Jeb and the chief have a little bit of a bonding moment, or a little bit just like a nice, like, let's chill out for a moment. There's nothing really much we can do at the moment. So they sit tight for a little bit, just sing a weird song, which I'm like, you do what you do in stressful situations again, bro. You do what you do. We come back over to Jeb's home, which of course today is the big his daughter's birthday, and the wife's holding it in. Of course, obviously very unfortunate that a big murder mystery had to happen on the cusp of their daughter's birthday, but the job's first. So He's off doing that. She's trying her best to like manage the kids as well as making sure everyone in the communities felt welcome, and also as well as taking care of his elderly mother, who of course disappears. So the primary focus is trying to find her. So she's trying to recruit selective members of the community of the church because they feel she's a little bit open minded where she's like she doesn't want everyone to know about her problems, so she's trying to like just select I think the higher members that are more trustworthy to go help her find her mother in law. Back over in the cabin, I believe reinforcements finally do come in. We're trying to figure out what the best strategy of approach would be to that to get into the house. They find the little girl finally, and they put her in the. I don't know how she got in. I think she just casually went into the car, or they finally found her and they put her in. Jeb tries to go in because he is the family man here, but she's a little bit uncomfortable around him at first. But she then starts to open up a little bit on other aspects of it, like she doesn't answer questions about her who's in the cabin, and that sort of thing. But she starts talking about Alan and Brenda's wedding and just the turmoil that happened before and afterwards. And while Jeb was trying to get more of the information about it, her mother appears out of nowhere, starts proclaiming that she's a liar, that don't believe her, her tales of her recollection of events are not true. So they arrest her. They put her in the other van to keep her separate, and it's sadly very apparent that she's also been. So now, again, this is the thing that I respect about these types of shows, where it takes a little bit of time for me to get more a little bit raveled into the plot, since I don't really know much about the Mormons, and I let this show kind of be the explanation for things, even though I know it's not the 100% take of it, it's a more simplified take of it. So the bearded men and the people who follow them are basically what they assume to be the original methods of how the Mormons used to conduct business when everything happened, before it was more watered down and kind of modern day as we know it from today in the show. And they're a little bit more extreme. They believe that the only way you can get rid of a very serious sin is to atone with your blood, which is really, honestly, I've never heard of. I'm pretty sure in some religion it's something like that, but that's really extreme. Like, if you commit a sin, you have to literally cut yourself or damage yourself and cause blood to come out for that to be the repentant for your sin, I guess, if that makes sense. Eventually they have enough. Jeff decides to go in regardless, because the main, whoever the main man is in that cabin, starts ordering that the police leave, and then they bring back his wife and daughter. So Jeff slowly starts to head in, realizing that his sons are there too. There are people in the house, and so eventually they trick him. They get in via the main door once one of them is distracted, and they apprehend most of the sons. They apprehend the dad, one of them, one of the Lafrays, of course, obviously with a beard, so he's the second of the bearded men. They sadly do let one of them escape. We don't know who exactly he is. Yeah, he was hiding in the cupboards, and while the police weren't looking, he got away pretty quickly. So he's escaped. He's off in the wind. But they bring the rest in to see what's about to happen next. We cut back over to Jeb's wife, who is still trying to search the community for her mother-in-law. Thankfully, one of the members of her church found her trying to get out of town, back to farm life, and she's basically, she definitely, they confirmed it later on, but I'll mention it here. She is with dementia, so slowly but surely, she is. Actually, I don't even know if they confirm she has dementia or she's already in the stages of getting dementia. It seems like the way they're talking about it is that she is with dementia. So this was going to happen at some point. So she's still very baffled. She's still very much lost and confused of what the heck is going on, forgetting it's the girl's birthday and whatnot. So they take her back in the house to kind of get her arrested and back to normal, so to speak. We cut back over to the station where the little girl is being asked by social workers about what the heck happened in the cabin, what's going on here. The only new information we get at this moment is that whatever this strain of Mormon or Lafrays that they're following up on the path now is mostly due to, they don't trust anyone in uniform, that everything government related is not justifiable by God, and there was an incident where before Brenda and Alan's wedding, that the one yes so the main patriarchs of the LaFrey family came back from their retreat trip to go see the wedding, and they were mad that Dan, the U.S. agent, actor wise, uh, apparently got their license taken, that they have a lot of debts to owe because he refuses to pay taxes, and that their family business is in jeopardy. He's not happy because the whole goal was like, you needed to keep everything the exact same when we come back. And obviously, of course, we know, like, yeah, financially they were just not making the money to even afford anything right now. So Dan just used as an excuse to, like, well, this is what our religion says, so why do we have to pay taxes? And obviously the patriarch knows better than him. It's like, well, no, there's this law where technically it's all about the loophole. Like, there's always like some sort of like murky area in the law, and then you find another loophole, and that kind of like contradicts the other thing, if that makes sense. So that was a little weird. So he gets mad. He punishes Dan by taking out a belt and like literally whipping his hand until blood comes out. The other LaFrey, the one that was captured in this episode, stops him. He gets into a fight with his dad, but thankfully some other wedding guests arrive, and they kind of have to stop the fighting so that they can kind of go back to normal. It's also becoming apparent that Dan is slowly descending into madness. He is very much still in belief of that, yeah, things with tax are not unjust, and that there needs to be like a major change with the way how they believe things. Very much of a big red flag to them. So that's not really that's kind of scary in my opinion. I know we took a break with the case. I know Jeb and his wife and their daughters head over to back to the Mormon church, where it's time for the girls, now that they turn 8 years old, it's time for them to be confirmed, or their first communion. So the whole process is basically like when you get baptized, is that Jeb will basically wash away any sins they have committed up to this point at all, and it will be fine. You are forgiven. Any sins that you commit after this point will kind of be harder to get rid of. So he's making sure everything's fine, that the girls are ready for this arrangement. Jeff pulls him aside a little bit to kind of tell him, for that one, my mother is very much, with dementia. Everyone knows this, but however, Jeff tells him that, like, for a brief moment, I got to talk to my real mom again, and she was basically saying that she wants to go be with her husband, his dad, in heaven. And sadly, the bishop's like, no, she will have to wait until the Lord says it's time for her to go. So, meaning that no matter what problem she has, she's got to wait, which is like, that's a little question, because for me, I would honestly not let anyone I love suffer. If they want to go because they just don't want to suffer with this for the rest of their life, let them go. It's their choice in the end. But I understand not everyone's like that. They have higher beliefs to believe in. And the other thing is that Jeb wants to get his opinion on the case, because, of course, I'm just making sure I'm fine angle wise. Sorry about that. One of the things that about the case with the LaFreys leading into like this supposed olden way of how the Mormons used to run things back when it first started, the bishop was very much felt uncomfortable with this fact, and just told him, like, whatever they say, whatever they're doing is not justifiable, but he doesn't really get much information beyond that. So that kind of wraps up there. Jeb returns to the station. He finds out that the other LaFreys kind of slowly being detained, kind of calming down a little bit more, to see if everything will be all right. I think, at some point, Jeb goes back to talk to Alan about things, and considering Alan was a little bit kind of withholding the truth a little bit on what he knew. Jeff's starting to believe that maybe they're in cahoots, but Alan brings in another story to why he wouldn't be on his brother's sides on this point. Is that so? On the day, no, are we on to that story yet? No, I think it's on the day of the wedding. So when him and Brenda were about to get married, it was around the same time that Brenda was graduating from college. So in order to save her parents some money, they decided to have the wedding and her graduation very close by, so that they only had to make the one big trip. However, sadly, the day before the wedding, or a couple days before the wedding, which was also on her graduation day, he got pulled over for ticket violations for not paying them. So he got arrested. He got impounded and everything. So very not a good choice by Alan to make that, the day before his wedding. Really not a good choice, to be honest with you. I'm not sure if this flashback was in this moment, but it does happen later, where Brenda basically appeased to Dan and the others, like, why Alan can't keep doing this. This was his truck. They're going to take it away if he doesn't pay the fee. And Dan is still very much on the mindset of he doesn't have to pay. It's not justifiable. Him paying is basically him admitting that our ways are unjust and that we should be corralled by the government. And so basically, he's just not losing his mind on it. He says like, don't worry, Alan will we'll get out of prison, get out of prison. Well, no, get out of jail, and everything will be fine. Don't worry about it. And then he starts to become a little bit more delirious, saying that he had a vision that he's going to be sheriff, and that there's going to be some change. And then somehow him being sheriff is going to lead to him like cutting out taxes for the entire United States. Which I'm like, I don't know how that works, but you know what? If you have that vision, go for it. I'm not trying to make a joke of it. I'm just saying, it's you believe what you believe, somewhat. Not really. Don't kill anyone. So that's all the information they got out of them. And then so Jeb and his partner shift their focus on the new LaFrey that just came in. And very much he's still sprouting. Like he's still like basically like of the three LaFreys we've seen present day, he's the most far gone. He still very much is holding what he's been believing. And that, he says like there's some divine list out there that basically tells them that these are the sinners. You need to basically eliminate them before you're able to go forward in your belief, which is it's also funny because I forgot how the line was, but I think Jeb or the chief basically said something in contradiction to that, and he was like he dropped the series bravado act for a second. And he was like, wait, really? Like, what's going on here? So I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I like that delivery quite a bit. So they're not really getting much from that. The other LaFrey, the one we saw in the last episode that they arrested from the motel, starts yelling because I guess those walls are paper thin, and he was now just being told the information that Brenda and her daughter were killed. He was like, that's bullshit. Like, you're lying to get some sort of information out of him. And honestly, this was kind of the moment where like, there's a lot more to this than we realized, because this guy like literally believably is expressing, I did not know they killed her. And then once they showed him the pictures, it became even more gruesome because that's like his revelation of like, what the fuck did they do? Because like, again, his reaction was genuine. Like, he did not know that they killed her. So even though he was probably involved at some point in this, he was not involved in killing her, and he would never do that to hurt his own, sister-in-law and his own niece. Like, he would never do that. But the other LaFreys, that's still like in a big murky area whether or not they actually did that. I don't know if did we get the last flashback scene? I don't know if it was Alan or Brenda telling this. I forgot. Maybe I'm mixing my order, but this did definitely happen. So Alan is in jail being held because he's refusing to pay his taxes because his brothers are telling him not to. And Brenda's like, they're trying to compromise. Is that Brenda basically wants him to like, you need to give up this way. It's not sane, which again, she has some points. You shouldn't, like, the way that Dan and the others are pursuing things right now is becoming a little bit more crazy, a little bit more scary, and a little bit more like concerning for their emotions and for their mindset. But of course, because for Alan, those are his brothers, those are his family. That's all he known in his entire life before he met Brenda. And for him, it's not as easy as to like just get up, abandon his family, and just give up his way of living. Like I think Alan says it best in kind of like the weirdest way. Like, okay, I will leave my family. I will leave behind this life of being a Mormon, or at least this strain of what Dan's trying to do. But you have to give me something. And honestly, this is kind of like the more we're like, okay, yeah, I can see where they're going for this, but I'm like, of course, obviously, we're in 2020s watching waves back in the 1980s where like, yeah, definitely times have changed. Where Alan's only agreement to doing this is that, okay, I'll leave, but you need to promise me that you're going to first, now that you're graduated, you're going to bear us children, give us a family, and then once they're a little bit more well established, then you can go back to your career as a journalist or as a reporter. And for Brenda, you can feel in her face like she doesn't want to agree to it because she's worked so hard to get to this point, and then basically that for her own, to looking out for her own husband's well-being, she has to give up her career just to give him what he wants, just so he can get out of this potential dangerous path that his brother's sending his entire family on. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, where like she is helping her husband, but she's hurting herself. She does agree, because obviously she wants her husband away from him, so she makes the agreement, and I guess he pays the taxes, and then they're off scot free, and then at some point they have their daughter, and that's kind of how it happens. And then so to the other Lafrey that just had the revelation that Brenda and her daughter died, was that if there was a list, then I'm assuming it's for other people that have gotten in their way, which we'll find out a bit what Brenda actually really did for them to be like, even though like they had like a lot of issues with Brenda, those were like very pale in comparison to what we believe she might have done next after she and Alan decided to split off from their segment. That other people within the church, that they were trying to get information about the original LSD documents, how things were done with Mormon ways, but they were like very much like roadblocks, not getting them involved, not getting them, the information that they wanted. So those are on the kill list, basically. So the other two Lafreys that are out there, whoever the other two bearded men are, they're still out there. They might still be planning to kill them. So of course Jeb's on high alert. They got to like protect these people, protect the bishop, protect anyone that could help, anyone that's connected to this. So they got to protect them no matter what. And they need to find these other two Lafreys, or these other two Biedermen. Let's just say that for now, and save the day and try make sure no one else dies. And then we get one more flashback that's not connected to anyone saying it, but where Brenda. Well, Alan's saying the narration, but Jeb's already off to the races to go try and find the bishop. Yeah, so with the last flashback we get was when Brenda was pregnant with her daughter, and Alan was saying it best now in terms of like the context of like him after the fact of, even though I felt like Brenda was going to escape the cage that was going to be put on her for being a Mormon wife, he thought that them getting away from things would be this kind of fresh start for them. In reality, Alan did kind of trap her in a new cage in the sense of like, you have no career, you're just a mom, that's it. And Brenda was starting to feel that a little bit, and she calls up, I forgot which of the wives she called up, but she was basically beginning her campaign to start trying to get as many Lafreys out of the Mormons as she can to kind of save them and still be a family. So that kind of is putting her on the path of the crosshairs of whoever did really kill her, and that's where the episode ends. So for me, I think this was so far of the three the strongest episode yet. We got some suspense. The mysteries deepen. For at least for me, I'm starting to finally understand more what's going on, the actual plot, the actual conspiracy, what's going on. Seeing more of the flashback just in very contained ways. Seeing more of the Lafreys as we're getting piece by piece, like the modern days kind of catching up with what the flashbacks are doing, and we're still, again, there's still more questions than answers. There's still a lot of like empty holes we still need to figure out. And of course, obviously, this is a mystery. We will get those filled out at some point. It's just the pacing is so far good. We're getting along with the plot. It doesn't feel slow and sluggish right now. It definitely doesn't also feel rushed. So this is the exact pace that I wanted this, and so far I'm very happy with what we're getting. I wonder at some point if we're gonna get more of a Jeb focused episode in terms of like just focusing on his family for a second, because I believe that, and I forgot to mention this in the actual review, that in the actual recap, is that there was a scene where Jeb and his wife were having an agreement after disagreement after the church, probably based on what they were going to do with his mom and just what things are currently with the investigation. That I feel like his wife is starting to begin to get a little bit miffed. Like, of course, obviously in the religion she can't really say anything, but like given how things are kind of changing at this moment, it's not really something that she's comfortable with right now. So I wonder if there's going to be like some sort of explosion moment with his mom, or with the case of how that's going to affect their way of belief. Like, there's still a lot of questions to be had, but I can't wait for them to be answered pretty quick. And yeah, I'm still believing Alan knows more than he's letting on. I mean, he's been knowing more than he lets out as we pass in each episode, but for now, so far the show's tracking great. So far, this was the strongest episode so far, and I can't wait to see what next week's episode is going to lead us next in this mystery. What's the next revelation? What's the next twist? We'll find out soon. But for this episode, it was great. Enjoyed it. I give this episode 2 thumbs up. But before we get to our ending. Like, let me know. Also, let me know in the comments below what you think of this week's episode. Let's go through Joe's Mystery Corner. Joe's Mystery Corner. We're gonna solve the case before the show does. I still can sing for shit. Anyway, so yeah, I still think it's Dan. They did show a little bit more of a violent side to the Patriarch Lefray this episode with the whipping thing, but I still don't think he has anything to do with it. He's just well too old fashioned to even believe in Dan stuff. But it was very nice to see. It was interesting to see the kind of like the physical aftermath that this religion can cause you in terms of like, and this family specific belief. So it was nice to see. But I still think it's Dan. Dan is the more unhinged of the bunch. You know, episode 2 definitely showed him to be a little bit more, he can resort to violence or he can be a little bit more aggressive if he's pushed. So, and considering the fact there's still a kind of a big chunk of the story left to go, I would imagine that at some point he gets pushed to that stage of, you know, the derangedness and stuff like that. And also so far, none of the other Lefrays are like, one is showing like he was aware of the change, but he wasn't like with the violence. And the other one was probably aware of the violence, but he's still a little bit confused by it. So I still think it's Dan. There could still be that big last minute twist that we don't know about, and we'll find out soon. But I'm still firmly believe it is Dan, that he was the one who killed Brenda, and is the leader of the bearded men. But we'll find out soon. Eventually, we'll find out. I believe the show's only 7 episodes, because when I was reading the description, there was only going to be 7 episodes. So my next week's point, we will be at the halfway mark of the show. So yeah, hopefully by then we'll have we'll begin to get more answers and questions. Well, who knows? Who knows? Again, I'm enjoying the pacing so far, so let them do what they want. But I think that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's the Two from ActionX, reviewing every episode of the limited series on Hulu under the banner of heaven. If you want to know what we're doing normally, What's the Two, besides our banner episode reviews, we are currently doing Rookie and Walker episode reviews each and every week after brand new episodes on the CW and ABC. So go check them out. We're also doing quick impression, we're doing first impression, other stuff in the world of What's in the Tube. But if you don't care about Banner of Heaven, you're in luck. We'll be back next week with another episode review, or later this week since this is being posted on Mother's Day. Also, happy Mother's Day. Hopefully you're having a great time with your mothers. I just came from an early Mother's Day dinner with my mom, so hopefully you're having a great time with yours. So enjoy. But again, this has been What's in the Tube. Please subscribe to us on youtube.com/ActionX videos. Ring that bell for notification when our next episode review is live. Please also like, favorite, share of this review if you want to. And please also follow us on social media to stay up to date with any sort of updates we may have for the channels, which includes the Collection Compass as well. So go check that out as well. But until we see each other again next week, everyone, I'll see you then for... I still haven't found an ending rigmarole for this. I don't know. I'll see you banners next week, I guess. I guess that's what I'm going to go with. So until then, stay safe out there. Be good to each other. Enjoy your Mother's Day. And as always, peace out.